So making a HUD, unlike everything else I've done here, or I've done it enough times that I kind of memorize and can work through what I have to do each step. Working with fonts and text in Pygame always confuses me. So I'm going to have to use a reference. So if I go to my web browser and go to here, in the Pygame tutorial section, we have what's referred to as the line-by-line chimp. And line-by-line chimp acts like a banner ad, lets you click on the monkey, and it will spin around when you say it. So this has both information for fonts and sounds. So I'm going to start stealing code from here. I know I need this thing. I don't technically need this because in general, all the font stuff usually works on the computers, but it'd be really helpful to get an error message if we did. So I'm going to copy that line, and I'm going to switch over to my Genie, and we're going to go to Ball Demo, and right after Pygame init, let's print off that. So we should get a warning. If I execute this, we shouldn't get a warning. If we did get a warning, we'd have to figure that out. But right now, that looks good. Let's keep going. I'm now going to go through. I could read this entire article, which is a very good article, but I've already read it a few times, and I really just know I want to look for the font stuff. So I'm going to hit Control F and search for font. So now here's the font code. So we're going to make a new thing called a HUD. So new, Control S, file demo, and we're going to make a file called HUD.py. And I'm going to go steal stuff from Ball just because it's a good starting place. And I'm going to increase the font size so you can actually see it. I'm going to call it HUD. And really the HUD's going to show the score is the big thing it's going to show. But in it, our HUD doesn't have any speed, so we don't care about that. Really, the only thing we care about is the start position, so that's fine. Now, if we go look at the line by line, this generates a new object that is a text object, and the text is really just an image object. So let's go steal this code, and let's start putting it into the thing here. So we're going to use default font. We're going to render, instead of this, we're going to render score equals 0. And then let's go look at the way I'd figure out what these mean. If I go to my font information, go back over here, and we scroll up and we go to A, B, C, D, E, F, font. So let's go look at the font.render. So it's font.font, font.render. So it's text anti-aliasing, basically just make it smooth it. What color, and if there's a background. And I believe background would be we can read through here. Background is a color used for the text background. We'll leave that transparent. So we're going to pass it a color, and we're going to pass it 0, or let's do 255, 255, 255. Well, 0, 0, 0 is going to be black. 255, 255 would be white. Let's go 0, 0, 0. That should okay. And text pause is equal to text dot. Instead of text, let's call this. Well, let's leave that. And then the text position, instead of this, our center is going to equal start pause. Now this blit is not something we want, so let's get rid of that. In fact, let's change text to image, because that makes more sense to us. That's what we've been using, image, and let's call this rect. So let's see if we can get this at least drawing on the screen. So let's go to our ball demo. Let's create a new thing. HUD is equal to HUD And let's place it at 0, 0 to see what that looks like. And that should be a list. I do have to import it, obviously. And now let's go and draw it to the screen. And here should be the last thing drawn. So screen dot split HUD dot image HUD dot rect. Let's see how this looks. I made a typo right here. I put the bracket the wrong way. So let's put that the right way and try it again. And I have no HUD. My HUD has no image. This should be self.image, and this should be self.rect. And that can stay as font because we're going to, our self.font. So we do have this. All right, font is not this thing. So we need to do, this has to be self.font, and this should be self.image. This is the downside of copying and pasting, is that I have to change my behavior to make sure I match the type I'm using. So I'm using this as a class-based. I want to make these objects of the class, not just of instance variables. So I have my font, except you can't see it because 0, 0 is the center of the text. So maybe instead of center, let's do top left equals that. Let's try to see if that works. That looks much better. Now, if I want that font to be bigger, let's go look at HUD, and it looks like this will be the font size. So let's do 48. So there, that's a nice score there. Later, we'll put an image around that, but right now that's a good starting point. Now we need the score to go up every time we kill something. So what we need to do is we need to keep track of how many things we do. So we're going to take and keep track of our kills. And every time we remove a ball, we're going to do kills plus equal 1. And we're going to print kills just so we can see if it's working in the background. So I'm going to go over here. I'm going to start moving around. So now I have a counter that's keeping track of how many things I've killed. The last step is to change the code for our HUD so that it can take the kills and update the score. So we need to make an update method for our HUD. Def update, take self and score. And this is going to now take and do these 2 lines. But instead of score, just doing score by itself, we're going to take and do text equals score plus the str of score. That's the string of score and score. And then instead here, this we're just going to pass it text. So each time we update the text, we'll re-render the image, re-render the and we want to make sure that our image stays there. So it's equal to self.rect.top left. So constantly the top left is going to stay in the top left. And of course, I forgot to actually call our update method. So in our game, we're going to take this and we're going to go where we do the standard update. HUD.update kills. So the score automatically cranks up. We might also want to add a timer to our score, to our item. So let's take and make our new HUD instance. Let's make the HUD a little more specific. So instead of score, we're going to pass this base text. Sorry. We're going to pass this base text and start position. And now here we're going to do self.base text equals base text. And this is going to be self.base text. And then we create our HUD. We're going to change this from HUD to score. And we're going to pass it score. And the reason we did that is because now we can add a second thing called, we're going to duplicate this line. We're going to do timer is equal to time. And we're going to place this below on the left-hand side, but on the bottom of the screen. So the X coordinate is going to be, actually, we're putting the other side, the right-hand side of the screen. So we're going to do, its X coordinate is going to be 900 minus maybe 100. So now we can take and create another HUD object. So we have another HUD object called timer. And what we're going to do is keep track of time. So time is equal to 0. I don't need the semicolon. Got my Java and my Python. And what we're going to do is every 60 times, so we're going to keep track. We're going to do timer dot update and we're going to pass it the time timer dot update infinite time, and we're going to do time plus equal 1 too. Time plus equal 1. And what we're going to do is take the time and divide it by 60, and that's going to be the value we pass to it. Let's see if that looks. Oh, this should now be score. So I'm not seeing the text. So let's give it minus 200. Oh, I also didn't split it. So Control Z. Let's leave that. And let's take and duplicate this. Timer. So good idea, except it needs to be moved over some. So we're going to take and subtract 200. Now, concept's good. It's kind of noisy. So we're going to take and turn this into an integer. So we're going to do int parenthesis this. So we only get solid numbers. And then we might need to move it over again to make it look good. So now I have my timer. It tells me it updates time. I'll make sure it updates finally gets to 10. Everything looks good. And this should be roughly correct. Now, it's not perfect because our frame rate not be exactly right, but it's going to interpret in-game time very well. There are better ways to get time, but this is a good reference, and let's use our counter. So now I have my score. I have my time. Font does look a little funny in some places, but you can pick different fonts that might look a lot better. But this is a much more complete game. I have a score. I have a timer. The score is on top of everything. My player goes underneath the score if he shows up there. The time updates properly. So everything's up and running. That's a pretty good start for a game.